Here, among the towers of Lower Manhattan, stands the New York Financial District, a vital center in the world's economy. This is Wall Street, a street as old as the city itself. Here stands historic Trinity Church. Nearby, George Washington took his oath of office, and the United States Congress first convened. In the heart of the financial district is the New York Stock Exchange. The stock exchange fulfills a need basic to our American economy. It is the nation's marketplace, where stocks and bonds are bought and sold for millions of people everywhere. The broad democratic ownership of a country's productive facilities is new in man's history, and the development of a people's capitalism, a chance for everyone to own his share of American business, did not come about suddenly. The stock exchange story is one that affects every American today. Let's turn back 300 years and see the role played by investors and the exchange in the growth of America. This was New Amsterdam in 1660, a small community of Dutch settlers. Against invaders, they built a wall across the island. Just beside it ran a lane that one day would be called Wall Street. To the west, across the Hudson, lay a whole continent, unexplored, with vast timberlands. Oil lay deep below, and 1,000,000 years of vegetation had filled the earth with coal. There was energy in the rush of water that would someday generate light and heat and power. There were broad rivers that would serve as highways for commerce. The forests of the eastern mountains gradually gave way to broad grasslands. In time to come, a region for cattle and the growing of grain. Westward stretched this world, rich with minerals. There were great forests of giant trees. It was a continent bounded on the west, at last, by the widest ocean on the planet. With the American Revolution, the 13 colonies came of age, independent of their mother country, ready to begin a new life as the United States of America. In Federal Hall on Wall Street, they set up their first capitol. Here, in 1789, their first president was sworn into office. It was a time of hope and a time of uncertainty. Capital would be needed urgently to harness the power so vital in the dawning industrial age. Capital for the building of textile mills, for the construction of looms, for forges and foundries to provide the tools of industry and agriculture. Capital to build sailing ships for the China trade, to transport goods and materials to new markets. But where was this capital to come from? Banks and individuals financed the new enterprises. Some banks increased their capital by issuing stock. In 1790, the government itself sold stock to repay the costs of the Revolution. But many people were reluctant to buy shares because there was no central market where they could readily sell them. So in 1792, a group of 24 New York merchants agreed to meet daily under a great buttonwood tree in Wall Street, where, acting for the public, they would buy and sell securities. Here, the New York Stock Exchange was born. With the coming of the new century, transportation to the growing Middle West became an urgent necessity, and the state of New York built the Erie Canal. Hundreds of miles of excavation, great dams, complex systems of locks. All this required more money than the state could supply. So the state issued bonds for purchase by people who would stake their money on the canal's future. After the bonds were issued, the New York Stock Exchange provided the marketplace where they were traded. In 1825, DeWitt Clinton's great Water Road was opened. Because of the Erie Canal, New York became one of the great seaports of the world. By 1850, clipper ships were sailing east and west to countries round the globe. Within sight of the wharves of South Street, the New York Stock Exchange was expanding too. Securities of more canals were listed. Coal companies and gas companies, the new utilities. Then came the railroads. Railroad companies raised capital from thousands of people, and their securities were later listed on the New York Stock Exchange. Over the years, investors' savings helped to build the locomotives and the trains. Their money helped to buy the rights of way across the land, to lay the rails, and all along the lines, build stations. So the railroads went through, over the Alleghenies and north to Maine, west to Indiana and the Wabash, to Illinois and the Mississippi, and beyond. securities were traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Many investors made money. Some companies failed and investors lost. But the railroads were growing, and increasing numbers of people owned securities in the nation's transportation industry. With the invention of the stock ticker, people at greater distances could be quickly in touch with prices on the trading floor. In the city itself, tickers replaced the messengers who brought quotations by hand. And the ticker was not the only new means of communication. In 1877, Alexander Graham Bell demonstrated his new telephone. Later, telephone securities were traded on the New York Stock Exchange. The number of lines grew so fast that by the time the blizzard of '88 struck New York, overloaded telephone poles in Wall Street broke under the weight of the snow. It was a time of many new inventions. Americans seemed determined to get there faster and faster. The horseless carriage appeared with a bang. People laughed, then climbed aboard. They not only bought automobiles, but invested in companies that manufactured them as well. Thus, a new industry was born. An industry that would soon change man's way of life. The 19th century chugged at last into the 20th. And now, the 20th century. Cities of a size undreamed of, a vast new population, greater and greater markets. Today, we build upon a new scale. Food is produced in unparalleled abundance as machines take over farm work once done laboriously by hand. Science has reduced insect plagues and plant disease. Swifter trains join far-flung centers. Highways and long-haul trucks give rise to new industries. And commercial aviation opens wider vistas still. Behind our American standard of living are the workers, mills, and factories, the productive plant of the nation. Millions of individual American men and women helped finance these companies. They bought stocks, stocks representing ownership of the plants and machines. They invested in the imagination, knowledge, and skills of the men of industry. Investors have helped create jobs for millions. Their securities in most of the nation's larger companies are traded on the New York Stock Exchange. The exchange today, as in the past, neither buys nor sells stocks nor sets prices, but it continues to provide a central place where sales and purchases can be made and promptly reported. Let's follow a typical transaction. A clerk receives an order from his office to buy 100 shares of Electro Operations, or ELO, at the best market price. He raises a lever, and his floor broker's number appears on the annunciator boards. The boards serve as a paging system for brokers on the floor of the exchange. The broker goes to his clerk to get the order. He starts immediately for the post on the floor where ELO stock is traded. Meanwhile, another broker receives an order to sell 100 ELO shares, also at the best possible price. At the post, the buying broker asks for a quotation on ELO. The selling broker starts for the same post. The best bid and offer is 33 to a half. This means $33 per share is the most anyone will pay for ELO at the moment, and 33 and a half is the least anyone will accept. Both brokers seek the best price they can get. The buying broker decides to bid 33 and a quarter. The selling broker decides this is the highest price he can get at the moment. He shouts, "Sold." The transaction has been made. A reporter makes a written notation of the transaction. No written contracts are exchanged. A broker's word is enough. The reporter gives the notation to a page, who sends it to the ticker department for relaying to stock tickers all over the country. The selling broker's clerk telephones his office to report the transaction. The buying broker's clerk does the same. Both offices will now report the transaction directly to their respective clients. But who are these clients? Let's go to Easton, Pennsylvania, one of the thousands of cities and towns from which such a purchase order might have come. Here we can see an actual broker and his clients. This brokerage office is a branch of one of the more than 600 member firms of the New York Stock Exchange. They form the bridge between the exchange and investors. Through their more than 2,000 offices, people can get facts and advice and buy or sell securities. Prices flash over the nationwide ticker system and also reach the public through newspapers, radio, and television. The broker in this office is Maskell Ewing. Receiving confirmation of the purchase made only a few minutes earlier in New York, he reports to his client. Donald Mack is one of the growing number of young businessmen in town who turn to Maskell Ewing for financial advice. Together, they have planned an investment program which includes stocks or bonds in several industries, and they review Mack's holdings regularly as conditions change. The broker has many callers during the day, people looking for experienced investment advice from a broker registered with the New York Stock Exchange. Norman Schaefer wants information about the monthly investment plan. He has a steady job with a local power and light company. Like 2/3 of America's share owners, he earns under $7,500 a year. Ewing explains that the monthly investment plan was developed especially for people who prefer to invest regularly out of income, as little as $40 every month or every 3 months. He asks whether Schaefer has some savings for emergencies, because there's an element of risk in all investments. In any market, prices go up and down. For example, across the street in the farmer's market, if eggs are plentiful, or few people want them, the price will go down. But if they're scarce, the price will go up. Supply and demand have an effect on any market. Like all reliable brokers, Maskell Ewing helps his clients decide on their investment goals. He provides them with information based on painstaking research and urges them to consider carefully their investment decisions. Schaefer plans to talk things over with his wife. Ewing offers to answer any questions they may have. Maskell Ewing's clients are a cross-section of the town's citizens. Helen Morris, for example. He had come to know Helen Morris when he was elected to the hospital board. As supervisor of nurses, she works under great pressure and has had little time to plan for her future. Wishing to help her meet rising costs of living on a modest income, Ewing recommended investments in well-established companies with good records of dividend payments. Helen Morris is now able to live more comfortably and is assured of experienced advice in caring for her investments. She is but one of the millions of American women who own securities. Friend and financial advisor to people in many walks of life, Maskell Ewing has become widely active in community affairs. Today, he is invited to attend commencement exercises at a nearby college. Ewing remembers a day when Ada Ash thought her son might never get to college. Widowed while still young, she had come to him for financial advice. The broker suggested that she sell her husband's speculative holdings and invest in conservative stocks and bonds. With careful budgeting and sound investment planning, enough money was on hand to start her son on his way. Some of the professors are clients of Ewing's. And part of the college's own income is derived from stocks and bonds. Such investments help support many of America's institutions. Today, Maskell Ewing is driving into the country to see Wallace Hutchin, who is one of his clients. Hutchin began his investment program with Ewing years ago. In poor crop years, he's been able to borrow on his securities. Dividends have helped him buy machinery to put the farm on a more efficient basis. Hutchin looks on buying securities in much the same way as he looks on farming itself. There's an element of risk in both. But over the years, his good crops have more than made up for the bad ones. And that's also been true with his investments. Wallace Hutchin is very different from the farmer of 100 years ago. Education and modern means of communication have enabled him to see far beyond the boundaries of his wheat fields. He knows that if Americans had not put their money to work through investments, their country could not have come so far in so short a time. And the story has just begun. A future more astonishing than the past rises before us. Science is changing our world. A vast new microwave network flashes ideas and images to us across the continent. And the communications industry is only one of hundreds expanding or coming into being as scientific research turns to the creation of new products and new markets. Today, thousands of companies in the United States have their own research facilities. Developments such as the electron microscope will help man free his world of disease, will help rebuild molecules to create fantastic new materials for houses, highways, machines, clothing, all the countless things we use. The atom soon may power cities and farms, cars, trains, airplanes. Radioactive isotopes as tools of research find use in medicine, agriculture, and industry. Man continues to harness nature's forces His electronic computers can run factories, design bridges. One day, electronic brains may even manufacture themselves. Today, solar mirrors scan the sky. Tomorrow, they may give us more power than the atom. The sun may light our homes at night and provide heat in winter. Perhaps turn factory wheels and move liners over oceans. For already these reflectors can melt stone. Other high-temperature research is producing new materials to enable us to travel higher and faster than we once believed possible. Like the story of aviation, the story of America has moved into new realms of discovery. Discoveries so profound that they will change the life of each of us in time to come. And the great projects of the future, whether new industries or Earth satellites to explore the mysteries of outer space, like the great projects of the past, depend upon capital. Capital ventured by people, the men and women of America, the workers in industry, the businessmen, the farmers, the housewives, the women in professions. You and I, as owners of stocks today, can be shareholders in America's great tomorrow.